Hey guys, my computer died a few days ago. Apologies for the radio silence if anyone cares. I'm not sure anyone does, but that's why I've been dark. That and various thoughts about what a waste of time this is, and who the hell am I to do anything like this, and the usual sort of mental noise. It's weird. Sometimes I feel like I've transcended thinking and emotions in a pretty significant way, and then other times I just feel like dysfunctional mess. So still dealing with that. But I got comments from unknown bot. Hey, unknown bot, it's good to hear from you. And I was going to type something, but I figure it's easier to just talk about it. And I was thinking of inviting Will to like come and have a chat anyway, partially because I'm getting bored of just talking myself. So if either of you want to chat, like maybe we can record it and maybe even post it. Who knows? So let me know. But there were a couple of things. So one was about I feel the issues in the world today are less limited by thinking thought and more by real world actions. Stuff like power dynamics, wealth, lobbying, governments, etc. We can't even tie our shoes at the moment, let alone walk or look around. Yeah, fair point. Um, and yeah, I mean, I can't argue that, the real world stuff, like day to day, it's all about power dynamics and wealth and lobbying and governments and stuff. I mean, I guess there's a level of thinking that underpins all of that, which is kind of my point here. It's like we're trying to solve all of that, lobbying and power dynamics and governmental dysfunction on that level. And that level of thinking that's sort of driving all of that is the one that says, I'm this state and you're that state, and therefore we're in opposition and our interests may not be aligned. And I want to, ultimately it's all about like power in one form or another, power and control, and that happens at a personal level. Like when we get in emotional pain, we respond by trying to have control over things, and on a collective level, we have pain or suffering or fear, like same type of emotions, and so we try to control things by having wealth or resources or whatever. Um, but, you know, that level of thinking like puts you in opposition with other people, and then you try to get power, and the power can never last. Like that's the history of humankind. Like all dynasties fade away, and it's also a law of science that nothing lasts. So you try to get power, you try to hold on to it, but it's a flaw. It's a flawed idea in the first place. And even if you do get some kind of power, wealth, etc., like then you've got to protect it, because then there's a bunch of people who want to take it away from you. So again, like the idea that having power or wealth, all this control is like the answer to some major problem in some way is not, because it causes anxiety in and of itself, like it causes agitation and instability in and of itself, because it can't last, so you're anxious and you're looking over your shoulder trying to protect your wealth or your power, and that's anxiety inducing. And so like there's nothing here that's actually facilitating any peace or any sort of growth or evolution. And part of the sort of level of change in the level of thinking is sort of this type of realization. It's like realizing that, oh, like all this running around chasing power and thinking we need power and control to be happy, like we clearly don't. There's a lot of people who don't have a lot of power or control and they're very happy, and smaller companies and smaller governments that don't have a lot of power and control, but like a lot of people still able to be happy without that. So it's just kind of realizing that this is part of the change in the level of thinking. It's just kind of having that realization that, oh, chasing power doesn't actually really serve us. And I mean, this is probably a bit further down the line, but it's still the change in the level of thinking is I mean, we know it's true. I was going to say, like, realizing that everything is interconnected and everything ultimately is part of one system. Like you see that, I think that's also a law of science now. Like the butterfly effect, like, butterfly thinks its wings in Tokyo and you have a, thunderstorm in Ireland. Like everything is interconnected, and there's the same, in global economics, for example, like everything's now interconnected. So a change somewhere in the system is a change somewhere else. It's the same in our bodies. Like every organ is connected to every other organ. Um, like the idea of one government fighting for power with another government is like your heart fighting for power with your lungs. Like it's when you view them all in the context of like being the same system, it's completely ridiculously stupid. And so like that's the type of, change in the level of thinking that will ultimately lead us out of this stuff. But while we keep just working on that level of power dynamics, then there's no solution. It's just more and more warring and more dysfunction. Like you say, we can't even tie our shoes at the moment because all this dysfunction, all this like level of thinking that we have with all this emotional reactivity, which is another aspect of it, like it's just getting more and more and more intense because this is the world that we've created and this is the sort of level of knowledge and wisdom that we've created. It's just like this culture of like thinking and power and control and me, and I have to struggle, whether it's me personally or me as a collective, like me as a country and we as us as a company, us as a collective, same thing, like striving for, we're going to be happy and it's about us and we're going to get there and it's going to be great. Like it just intensifies, intensifies, intensifies. There's more and more obsessive thinking and more reactivity, and that leads to less and less clarity and less maturity. And so yeah, like our ability to tie our shoes is just getting worse and worse, which is one of the reasons I'm doing this, because someone has to say something and I got something to say and hopefully there's some people who want to hear it. You also said something about communication, and I think I'm going to address that separately because this is getting old already, or getting long already. So thank you so much. I really appreciate the comments. Someone is out there and listening. And yeah, if you want to chat, let me know. I'd love to. All right, cheers.